People love to dream, and we should. It's one of the greatest gifts of being human, the ability to sit quietly, close your eyes, and imagine what could be. To see yourself in places you've never been, doing things you've never done, becoming someone you've always hoped to be. That's extraordinary. A bird doesn't dream of building a business. A cow doesn't dream of traveling the world. But you and I, we can. We can project ourselves into the future and design a vision of what we want life to look like. That's a marvelous gift. But here's the truth. If all you ever do is dream, you'll end up frustrated. I've met people with the most beautiful dreams. Detailed, passionate, powerful. But they don't know how to begin. They keep looking toward the horizon, and somehow that horizon keeps moving further away. So tonight, I want to remind you of something simple. Dream big, but begin small. Think of it like climbing a ladder. The top rung holds your vision, the picture of where you want to go. But you can't leap from the ground to the top. You have to start with the first step. And isn't it interesting? That first step is usually only a few inches off the ground. That's by design. Life doesn't ask you to take a giant leap on day one. It simply asks you to start where you are, with what you have, and to move forward, one small step at a time. When I was young, I had big dreams. I wanted wealth. I wanted freedom. I wanted to live the kind of life I saw others enjoying. But I had no idea how to start. Then I met a man named Earl Schoaf, my mentor. And one of the first things he ever told me completely changed my life. He said, "Jim, the greatest value of the future is that it can be designed. But you must begin now, and you must begin small." At that time, I was broke. I was behind on my promises. There was always more month than money. But his words hit me hard. Don't curse the small beginnings. Don't despise the little steps. That's where the miracle begins. He was right. Let me ask you something. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you run a marathon? One step at a time. It's the same with dreams. You don't build a fortune overnight. You don't gain wisdom in a week. You don't transform your health in a day. But you can start with a single dollar saved, a single book read, a single workout finished. Small steps, done consistently. That's where success lives. Anyone can do something once. But true change happens when you do it again, and again, and again. My mentor once told me, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. And that's the dividing line. It's easy to skip the workout. Easy to say, I'll start tomorrow. Easy to delay the dream. But tomorrow turns into next week. Next week turns into next year. And one day, the dream fades away. So if you have a dream, and I hope you do, the challenge is to find the first small step and take it today. If you want to be wealthy, save a single dollar instead of spending it. If you want to be healthy, take a short walk instead of scrolling your phone. If you want to build a stronger relationship, write a note, make a call, say the words you've been holding back. Small things that move you in the right direction. Because the big dream inspires you. But the small steps transform you. They build discipline. They build momentum. They build belief. You start to see that change is possible. That progress is real. And once you taste progress, the dream doesn't feel so far away anymore. So tonight, keep your dreams alive. Don't let anyone steal them. But remember, the secret to reaching them isn't in the size of your ambition, but in the consistency of your effort. Start small. Stay steady. Let time multiply your discipline, because time is the great amplifier. the silent partner that rewards consistency. Days add up, weeks add up, years add up. And one day you'll look back and say, I can't believe how far I've come. And that's where the story really begins. Because once we understand that big dreams require small beginnings, a deeper question emerges. Why do so many people never start? That's why I often tell people, don't try to read a book a day. Just read 10 pages. 10 simple pages. It doesn't sound like much, does it? But over the course of a year, that's more than 3,000 pages. That's about a dozen good books. And a dozen good books can completely reshape the way you think, the way you live, and the way you see yourself. A dozen good books can give you new philosophies, new tools, and new perspectives. The kind that unlock the door to your dream. And it's the same with listening. You don't have to listen to motivational talks all day long. Just a few minutes consistently, a short dose of wisdom every morning or evening is enough. Because over time, the voice of wisdom begins to drown out the voice of doubt. That's the power of a small step in thinking. It creates big changes in living. Now let's talk about habits. What are habits, really? They're just small steps, repeated. That's all they are. You don't form a habit by doing something once. You form it by doing it over and over until it becomes second nature. And once it's automatic, it starts shaping your life without much effort. When I first began my career, I developed a habit that changed my life, keeping a journal. Nothing fancy. Just notes, quotes, and lessons I learned each day. At first, it seemed small, just a few lines scribbled before bed. But over time, that journal became a treasure chest, a record of my growth, a map of my progress, and a collection of insights I could return to whenever I lost my way. It even became the foundation of what I teach today, all born from one small daily habit. But let me give you the opposite example. I once knew a man who had another small habit, stopping for a drink after work. Just one drink. It seemed harmless. But one became two. Two became three, and soon, it wasn't a break, it was a lifestyle. And that small step, repeated in the wrong direction, cost him his health, his money, and his family. You see, small steps work both ways. They can lift you up, or they can pull you down. They can lead to success, or they can lead to destruction. The direction is your choice, but the principle never changes. People often ask, what's the secret to success? They think there must be some big hidden key, some mysterious formula. But there is no secret. It's the little things done daily that make the biggest difference. Remember this, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. That's the dividing line. So, what's the small step in thinking? It's deciding that your actions matter, that the little things count, that today is important. If you think today doesn't matter, you'll waste it. But if you realize today is a piece of your future, you'll treasure it. Because the future isn't built all at once. It's built one day at a time. Let me ask you, how do you measure a year? Not in grand moments or breakthroughs. A year is measured in days, 365 of them. Stack enough good days together, and you have a good year. Stack enough good years together, and you have a good life. But it all begins with one day, one decision, one step. So the invitation is simple. Don't wait for the dramatic breakthrough. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Start with one new idea. Start with one new habit. Start with one small shift in attitude and repeat it over time. Because repetition turns the small into the significant. Now let's move to another essential part of the process. Discipline. Dreaming big gives you vision. Starting small gives you momentum, but only discipline carries you through. Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. It's the glue that holds the small steps together until they add up to something meaningful. I used to think discipline was a burden, something heavy, something that limits freedom. But over time, I learned the truth. Discipline is what creates freedom. Without discipline, you're trapped by moods, cravings, and impulses. But with discipline, you gain control. You become the master, not the servant. And that's what allows you to build the future you want. Now, don't confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline simply means doing what you should do when you should do it, even when you don't feel like it. Nothing heroic, nothing dramatic, just consistent, quiet action. When I first began setting goals, I was excited. I wrote them all down. But soon I realized, goals are only as strong as the discipline behind them. A goal without discipline is just a wish. You can wish for health, but unless you practice the discipline of exercise and good nutrition, nothing changes. You can wish for wealth, but unless you practice the discipline of saving and investing, nothing happens. Discipline is the engine, and just like money earns interest, discipline compounds. Skip one workout, and it becomes easier to skip the next. Do one workout, and it becomes easier to do another. That's the law of momentum. And once momentum is on your side, progress feels almost effortless. But momentum doesn't appear overnight. It's born from those early, uncomfortable steps. Starting is always the hardest part. New habits feel awkward. Change feels slow. But if you push through, discipline begins to serve you. It becomes your friend, your quiet ally. Let me share a story. Early in my speaking career, I had a friend who dreamed of becoming a millionaire. He told me, "Jim, I'm serious. I want to be rich." He meant it. But every time I asked how much he'd save that month, he'd say, "Nothing, but I will when I start earning more." That was his mistake. He thought discipline comes after abundance. But the truth is, abundance comes after discipline. If you can't save $1 out of 100, you'll never save 1,000 out of 10,000. That's the power of beginning small. You prove to yourself that you can handle responsibility. If you handle the small, life will trust you with the big. That's not just philosophy. That's reality. If a bank can't trust you with a small loan, it won't give you a large one. And if life can't trust you with small opportunities, why would it hand you great ones? Discipline doesn't just build results, it builds character. And character is what sustains you when the road gets tough. And make no mistake, the road will get tough. There will be days when you want to quit. Times when progress seems invisible. That's when discipline steps in and whispers, "Do it anyway." Have you ever noticed how easy it is to talk yourself out of doing what you know you should? You tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow." But tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes never. That's why discipline must override emotion. If you let feelings run your life, you'll rarely take the small steps that matter. But when you let discipline lead, feelings eventually catch up. Here's a little formula that changed my life, and motivation gets you started. But discipline keeps you going. You don't need motivation every day. Nobody has that. But you do need discipline every day. Because discipline doesn't ask if you feel like it. Discipline simply acts. And here's the beauty of it. Discipline, once practiced, becomes habit. And habit, once formed, becomes automatic. Imagine the freedom of having good habits that run on autopilot. Habits of health, learning, kindness, and productivity. That's when you know discipline has done its work. So remember this. The dream gives you direction. The small steps give you progress. And discipline gives you endurance. Together, they form a powerful trio. Without discipline, those steps never add up. But with it, even the smallest effort compounds into something extraordinary. Now, let's talk about time. Because if dreams require small steps and discipline, time is the environment where it all plays out. Time is the soil of life. You can't rush the harvest. You can't plant in the morning and expect to eat by evening. Life doesn't work that way. I used to be impatient. I wanted everything now. But my mentor once told me, Jim, everything of value takes time. A child doesn't grow into an adult overnight. A tree doesn't reach the sky in a week. Success doesn't bloom in a single season. Time is the silent partner in every dream, the invisible force that turns your effort into results. And here's the truth. Time will pass whether you use it or not. 5 years will go by, no matter what. The only question is, where will you be when those 5 years have passed? You could be in the same place, or 5 years ahead. The difference lies in what you do today. I once asked a man, where will you be in 10 years? He said, about the same as now. And I told him, then you've already predicted your future. That's the danger of not using time wisely. But it's also the greatest opportunity. If you choose to grow, to learn, to save, to stay disciplined, 10 years from now, you won't even recognize yourself. Because time magnifies discipline. Let's make it practical. Read just 10 pages a day. That's 3, 6, and 50 pages a year. About a dozen good books. Do that for 5 years. 60 books. 60 voices of wisdom shaping your thinking. People will call you lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. Only time and discipline did. Or take your finances. Save $5 a day. The $150 a month. As far as $800 a year. Over 10 years, that small step becomes tens of thousands. All from a cup of coffee skipped. Small steps multiplied by time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They quit too soon, frustrated by the lack of instant progress, not realizing that real change takes seasons. Think of the farmer. He plants in the spring, tends in the summer, harvests in the fall, and rests in the winter. That's the rhythm of life. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can plant when it's planting time. You can tend when it's tending time. And if you do, the harvest will come. Time is neutral. It will work for you or against you. Neglect doesn't show up right away, but it compounds just like discipline does. Skip the gym today, nothing happens. Eat poorly today, nothing happens. Waste today, nothing happens. But give it time, and neglect shows up with interest. The kind that costs everything. So the question is simple. Will you let time multiply your neglect or your discipline? Because either way, time will pass. I once met a young man who said, Jim, I don't want to spend 5 years building this business. That's too long. I asked, how old will you be in 5 years if you don't build it? He said, the same age. Exactly, I replied. The time will pass anyway. Why not be 5 years ahead? That shifted his entire mindset. The only thing worse than the time it takes is looking back and wishing you had started. So here's the challenge: respect time. Trust the process. Stay the course. The difference between success and failure isn't talent, brilliance, or luck. It's simply staying with it long enough. Time is not your enemy. Time is your ally if you feed it with discipline. If you plant the right seeds, one day the harvest will surprise you. People will ask, how did you do it? And you'll say, day by day, step by step, season by season. Now, let's widen the lens, because this principle, dream big, start small, stay disciplined, doesn't only apply to business or money. It applies to every area of life: wealth, health, relationships, leadership, and contribution. Let's start with wealth. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about philosophy. If your thinking is wrong, no amount of money will fix it. That's why lottery winners often end up broke. They had money, but not the habits or the mindset. True wealth starts with learning to live within your means, then expanding those means through productivity and multiplying them through investment. It begins small. Control $1, then 10, then 100. If you mishandle the small, the big will overwhelm you. Now, let's shift to health, because health and wealth follow the same law. It's not about one perfect meal or one dramatic workout. It's about small, consistent choices. Water instead of soda, stairs instead of the elevator, a walk instead of another hour on the couch. Small disciplines practiced daily lead to energy, longevity, and quality of life. I remember traveling constantly for speaking events. It was easy to neglect health, but I learned it. If you don't guard your health, your wealth and influence won't matter much. What good is success if you don't have the vitality to enjoy it? Now let's talk about relationships. Big dreams here might look like a thriving marriage, deep friendships, or strong family bonds. But those aren't built through one grand gesture. They're built through small, daily acts of love: a kind word, a note of appreciation, a phone call, a moment of listening. Neglect relationships, and they wither, just like unwatered plants. I once knew a man who built his business, but lost his family. He thought he could make it up later with money, but later never came. Success in one area doesn't make up for failure in another. Life demands balance, and balance comes from attention to the little things. Every single day, leadership follows the same rule. People think leadership is charisma or title, but true leadership is built on trust. Show up on time, keep your word, do small things well. That's what earns influence, and influence, that's leadership. Finally, contribution, giving, serving, making a difference. People often say, when I'm rich, then I'll give. When I have more time, then I'll serve. But contribution starts with what you have. A few dollars, an hour, a kind word. You don't change the world in one day. You change it one person, one act at a time. That's why I call these the 5 major pieces of the life puzzle: wealth, health, relationships, leadership, and contribution. They're all connected. And the same principle runs through each. Small steps, practiced daily, shape an extraordinary life. You don't leap into excellence. You walk there, step by step, day by day. So ask yourself, what's one small step I can take in each area? One discipline in my finances, one in my health, one in my relationships, one in my leadership, one in my giving. You don't need 100, just one in each. Because one step repeated becomes a habit, and a handful of good habits create an extraordinary life. Dream big, yes. Picture the wealth, the health, the love, the legacy. But begin where you are. Begin small. Because the magic of life is that the small becomes the big. If you give it time, discipline, and attention. Now let's raise the energy. Because dreaming big and beginning small isn't just about success strategies. It's about maturity. It's about rising to the challenge of life and saying, I am responsible for my future. Responsibility, a word many avoid. It's easier to blame, The government, the economy, parents, circumstances. But the day you accept full responsibility for your life, that's the day real growth begins. There comes a day when something shifts inside you. A day when you stop waiting for someone else to fix things and finally decide to take ownership of your life. That's the day real change begins. Because responsibility isn't about guilt. It's about ownership. It's saying, this is my life. I will shape it. That's the true mark of maturity. And maturity, not luck, is what transforms dreams into reality. When I was younger, I had excuses stacked high. I blamed circumstances, people, the world. Then one day, I met Mr. Schoof, my mentor. He looked at me and said, Jim, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want life to get better, you have to get better. That moment changed everything. He didn't pity me, he handed me responsibility. And that single act, that transfer of ownership, became the turning point of my life. Here's what's fascinating. Once you accept responsibility, you start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop wishing for luck. Instead, you start asking, what small step can I take right now? And that question keeps you moving forward. So let me challenge you tonight. Stop postponing your life. Don't wait for the new year, the right time, or the perfect economy. Begin with what you have. Begin with who you are. Begin where you are. Because the perfect moment never comes. The best time is always now. I've seen people wait their entire lives for the right moment. But waiting is a trap. Opportunity rarely shouts. It whispers. And only those already in motion can hear it. Here's the reward for discipline and responsibility: vision. When you dream big and start small, belief begins to grow. And belief is power. It turns a distant dream into a living possibility. Once you start believing, your energy changes. Your attitude changes. People notice. Doors open. And it almost feels as though life itself is testing you, asking, will you take the small step before I hand you the bigger one? If your answer is yes, life responds. But let's be honest. The path won't always be easy. There will be days you feel tired, times when progress seems slow, and moments when doubt creeps in. That's when vision matters most. You need a dream strong enough to pull you forward when discipline feels heavy. Think of a marathon runner. The first mile is tough. The middle miles are brutal. But what keeps him going is the picture of the finish line in his mind. That's what your dream does. It pulls you toward completion. And every small step, no matter how insignificant it feels, carries you closer to that finish line. So tonight, let this be your call to maturity. Stop underestimating yourself. Stop waiting for someone else to make it easier. Take responsibility. Build discipline. Value your time. And never let go of your dream. Because life doesn't respond to need. It responds to deserve. If you want more, you must become more. If you want change, you must change. And the process doesn't happen in leaps. It begins with small, steady steps. So the challenge is simple. Dream big enough to inspire you, and start small enough to act today. Not tomorrow, today. Because today is the foundation on which tomorrow is built. I don't want you to walk away tonight just inspired. Inspiration fades. What I want you to leave with is a decision to act. Because nothing changes until you change. Nothing improves until you begin. That dream sitting in your mind won't build itself. That wish living in your heart won't materialize on its own. The only path forward is through consistent, deliberate, daily steps. Life doesn't reward dreamers. It rewards doers. But the dream is what gives the doing its purpose. Dreaming without action leads to frustration. Action without vision leads to exhaustion. But dream plus doing, that's fulfillment. So tonight, I leave you with one final challenge. Choose one dream you'll pursue. Don't worry if it feels far away. It's supposed to. Big dreams should stretch you. But then, choose one small step you can take immediately. Not 10, not 21, just one. And take it. Because one step is where every journey begins. You've heard it said that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But here's the deeper truth. That journey begins with the decision to take that step. Without the decision, the dream remains fantasy. With it, the dream starts to take shape. So, what's your step? Maybe it's saving the first dollar. Maybe it's making the first call. Maybe it's lacing up your shoes and taking a walk. Maybe it's writing the first page of your book or saying the first kind word that starts healing a relationship. Whatever it is, don't wait. Begin. And once you begin, protect your consistency. The magic isn't in the first step. It's in the daily ones. Success is simply small disciplines practiced every day. Failure is small neglects practiced every day. Both are easy. Both are possible. The choice is yours. If you keep taking small steps toward your dream and sustain them with discipline, time will multiply your efforts. Seasons will reward your planting. And one day, you'll stand where you once only imagined. You'll look back and realize it all started with one small step. So dream big. Don't let anyone shrink your vision. Don't let discouragement steal your hope. Don't let delay rob you of destiny. But while you dream big, always remember to begin small, because it's in the small steps that the miracle begins. So tonight, not tomorrow, make the decision, take the step, start the process, because your future is waiting. Your harvest is waiting. Your better self is waiting. The only question left is, will you begin?